Vincent in Coriopolis. By the way, I was in Coriopolis today with Bob Pompiani. We played Montour Heights. It was unbelievable. We had a great time. I love Coriopolis. You there, Vincent?
Yes. I was going to talk about John Gruden. I really enjoyed John when he was an analysis or whatever you want to call him on ESPN. I know Oakland threw a lot of money at him, but I enjoyed him a lot better back then.
You know what, Vincent? Here's the thing. He would have made more money if he would have stayed in the booth for Monday Night Football.
That's not true.
Oh, I think so.
They paid it. They gave him a 10-year, $10 million a year deal.
Yeah, but if he sticks around for 30, 20 years calling Monday Night Football,
if they fire him tomorrow, they still got to pay him $100 million.
I get that, but I'm saying if he would have stuck around on ESPN for 10 to 15 years, he would have made close to that amount of money. I don't know exactly what he made. I thought it was around in the 8 to 10 million range for Monday Night Football.
That money is always there.
You're right. That money is always there.
He wasn't making $10 million a year. He was making like 5 or 6. But my point is, he
working 3 days a week.
He could do. There's something to be said for that. But my point is, he didn't work 3 days a week because he did all that other all the quarterback academy, this, that, and the guy's a workaholic.
I get what you're saying, though. That ESPN football, Monday Night Football, whatever one of those, it's always going to be there.
The day he retires or whatever.
He could quit football tomorrow, get his $100 million, and be hired the next day.
I mean, that's the reality is they owe him $100 million.
Well, I don't have any faith in this guy turning things around in Oakland. All right, Ron Mercer, what's up, Ron?
With Antonio Brown, do you think that he has some mental problems from getting hit there a couple years ago from Cincinnati?
I mean, I don't know.
He's acting strange.
Yeah, I'm not a doctor. I don't try to play one on TV. I don't know what a good diagnosis is for Antonio Brown other than he's just a weird guy. And I gave you my diagnosis.
He's a narcissistic jerk.
Well, I agree with you, him being a narcissist, and I think he's made so much money that he thinks he's above everything else.
Well, it's not that. It's not the money. It's the fact that people just continue to enable his behavior. In every walk of life.
I've never seen anyone so enamored with social media.
He surrounds himself, but he's creating a brand in his mind. He surrounds himself with a bunch of yes men, goofballs, who can't say to him, Antonio, this is not the right way to do things. They all just kiss his rear end. His teams, they kiss his rear end. I mean, the fact that we are sitting here talking about this guy playing on Monday night, why would he think roles apply to him? Ever. The fact that the Steelers had to acquiesce and give him, his own Airbnb during training camp, why would he ever think the rules apply to him?
I just thought this was a way to get out of the training camp. Now it just keeps going, and it's interesting. It gets funnier by the day. Brad in Pittsburgh, what's up, Brad? Brad, you there?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. How you been, man?
Good. Thanks for calling, Brad.
I just think, this is a Pittsburgh curse with AB. AB has a whole lot of ADD and a little bit of CTE, feel me? And I think he just needs to go. Wherever he goes from now on, he's cursed. This is the Pittsburgh curse, and that's all I got to say. Thank you.
Brad, I appreciate the call. There's
I'll tell you one thing I wanted to see. Remember when he threatened to beat up he was going to punch
Ed Bouchette?
He was going to punch Jesse Washington.
Oh yeah, the guy.
I wanted to see that happen because I think Jesse would whoop his ass. I really do. I think if he wanted to mess with Jesse Washington, he would have lost.
What do you think?
That's what I was rooting for. I was rooting for that day. It was like Will McDonough back in the day. Remember when the one Patriot guy mouthed off to him and he knocked him out? That's what Jesse would have done to Antonio. I wanted to see that.
What about Ed?
I don't know, but I don't know Ed's. I don't know his fighting resume.
I've seen Ed get mad. I'm a little scared of Ed.
I've seen Jesse Washington play hoops. Guy's an athlete, and he's intense. I'm telling you, he's the kind of guy you don't want to mess with. Ed, I don't know his athletic resume.
Let's go out to. We got Michael out on the north side. What's up, Michael?
Hello.
Hey, how you doing?
Good. Yourself? I listened to your. You weren't on here last night. Okay, no. They started out by talking about AB. Okay, first you should have been talking about the Pirates the way they lost yesterday, right?
I didn't do the show yesterday.
Okay, I understand that, but you started out because it's a thing. AB's gone, right?
Yeah, you know what, Michael, I get what you're saying, but every phone call that I have right now wants to talk about Antonio Brown. What do you want me to do?
Yeah, but I'm just saying this is a sports show, so like let it go.
All right, ask me a question. We'll talk about. I want to talk about something else.
Whatever,
I don't
man.
want to talk about Antonio Brown. I don't.
Hey.
I mean, but look at this.
Here we go.
Every person on here wants to talk about Antonio Brown.
Hey, stop talking about Antonio Brown, but I'm going to call in and I'm going to talk about Antonio Brown. That's what that guy just said.
You know what?
Here's the thing. People want to talk about him. They want to talk about him. Hey,
it's interesting.
Here's the thing. I was on the show last night. It would have been really exciting to talk about the Pirates who gave up 10 runs to a horrible Marlins team.
And why in the world do I want to talk about the Pirates? It's a complete joke over at PNC Park. They had 5 fans in the stands last night.
What were we going to talk about? Clay Holmes can't get outs. Jeff Hartley shouldn't be. Well, how about they can't field? How about that? Have we ever talked about that? What do you want us to talk about with the Pirates?
They have 79 losses.
Oh, my goodness.
They're going to lose 100 games. You want us to talk about the Pirates?
They can't field. They can't run. They can't pitch. Other than that, they're okay.
What can they do?
They can hit. They do
Barely.
got some guys that can. No,
Yeah,
they got some guys that can hit.
Tonight they hit.
Josh Bell can hit it. Newman can hit it.
Brian Reynolds
can hit it. And you know what? He's 98 years old and can't run, but Melky Cabrera can hit the ball.
There you go.
And they've got some other guys that are okay hitting the ball. But
There's
here's
your
the
taste
problem.
of the bucko.
They can't field. They can't run bases. They can't pitch. Other than that, they're good. Okay, there we go. We've talked about the Pirates every night. That's what we could have said. The same thing every night for 89, 95, or how many games they played.
Bucko fever, baby. We'll be right back.